Hi GCSE PE students, it's Mr. Smith here. Just going to go through a few introductions and sort of rules of this particular video tutorial. At times I will ask you to pause your video and I might ask you to complete a task or go collect something from the front of a classroom, in which case just pause it and get that done as soon as you possibly can and then press play when you've done that. And the first thing I'm going to want you to do is pause your video and have your book open at the relevant section that you are trying to master. So pause your video now, please. Okay, hopefully you've got your book open at the right page. I'd also like you to check the front of the classroom on the whiteboard. There should be a slide up there that tells you where you might want to move this video onto in order to get to the relevant section. For example, you might be an expert in components fitness already, a master. You might have even been a grandmaster for that. But you might want to move on to the different scenarios. Move that video onto that to miss all that irrelevant information that hopefully you already know. So, pause your video or move it on to where you need to go to now, please. Okay, if you need to become a master in components of fitness, what I'd like you to do now is pause your video and go and collect a sheet that looks like this at the front of the classroom. So pause your video now, please. Okay, right, next thing I'm going to talk through these components of fitness, but you need to make sure that you make notes on that sheet of paper you've collected at the front of the classroom. So, first thing, whenever I see components of fitness, the first thing I do in my test paper or when I'm doing coursework or anything is I will write out the different acronyms. I'll write out BEFs and I'll write A, B, C, P, R, S. Okay, and that's really important because that tells me all the components of fitness, at least the starting letters of one of the words in there, in order to remember them for a particular question. So, the first one just here. Percentage of body weight that is muscle, fat or bone. If I'm looking at BEFs, I know it begins with B and I know that that is going to be body composition. Again, fill your sheet out where your definition is. Okay. The next one, and again there's no easy way of doing this, you've just got to learn it and revise it. So if I go too quick, slow down please. Okay. The next one is E. So this one, it talks about muscles in the definition. So this one is to do with muscular, and then the E from there is muscular endurance. The next one is to do with an F. So this one is cardiovascular fitness. Again, I've not read the definition out. It's your job to pause the video and see if you can remember that or test yourself on that one. Okay, the next one, okay, the next F is going to be flexibility. So before I write the definition in there, can you actually remember what the definition of flexibility is? Okay, can you remember that? So definition of flexibility is to do with a range of movement around a particular joint. So how far can you move your shoulder joint back or anything like that? Okay, the last one is S, and that is to do with strength, and that is to do with the amount of force. Sorry, that's the word supposed to say force. Alright, the muscles can produce against a resistance. So I've just put 3 words in there because my writing's quite big, and as you can see the pen's struggling a little bit. So again, I'll repeat that. The amount of force the muscles can produce against a resistance. Make sure you've got those notes. Feel free to pause the video and test yourself on that. Okay, the next one, A, B, C, P, R, S. So the A is going to stand for agility. Again, can you remember the definition of agility? Again, the best way to remember that is a change of direction. Sorry about the pen, guys. Okay, and that is done as quickly as possible. So a change in direction quickly, but also whilst being in control. So remember those 3 words for agility. Okay, the next one, maintaining centre of gravity whilst in control. The next one is a B, and that is balance. And then the next one, A, B, C, okay, is going to be coordination. Just check your spelling on coordination. A lot of people get this wrong. That is how you spell coordination. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so again, can you tell me the definition of coordination? So again, coordination, just to write a few things down, is about 2 or more body parts moving together at the same time, okay, and you might also want to put whilst in control. Okay, the next thing, okay, we've got P. Remember, I remember Peter Power. Don't know why the name helps me, but it helps me remember that Peter Power exists. The next one is, for some reason, helps me remember, I remember Robert reaction time. Okay, Robert reaction time. For some reason, it helps me to remember. Okay, and the last S is Sally speed, who can cover lots of ground quickly or movement really quickly. Okay, like I said, you might not still feel like you're a master in this particular area, so feel free to pause the video, check your notes that you've written. Can you cover up some of the definitions and repeat them in your head? Okay, so if you haven't done that, pause the video and have a go at doing that now, please. Okay, so now we're looking at the relative importance of different components of fitness. So first thing I want you to think about is it's a components of fitness thing. So again, if I was planning an answer for this, the first thing I would write on my paper, just somewhere next to the question, you can write scruffy, would be BEFS, ABC, PRS. Helps me remember that, BEFS, ABC, PRS. So what I basically want to do is I want to rank what is the most important in terms of relative importance. So what would be the most important and what would be the least important? Okay, so for this particular example, all right, you'd have to identify first of all what event's going on. There's a bit of a clue in the picture. The fact that it says 400 meters narrows down the running event, so you know that it's a 400 meter runner. Okay, so for this one, because it is relative importance, it is going to be an AO3, Assessment Objective 3 comment, which is you analysing or evaluating. You've got to make a judgment. So you're going to say, for example, I think the most important component of fitness to a 400 metre runner, this is me personally talking, it's not written down specifically, is speed. Okay, the thing that I've got to justify that now is why do I think that? Okay, so basically the definition of speed is covering a distance as fast as you possibly can. So obviously you want to cover 400 meters as quickly as you possibly can. So I think personally speed is really important. Down at the bottom, right, the least important. Okay, I personally think the least important component of fitness for this, all right, would probably be. I actually think it would be reaction time. The only time this person needs to react really is at the start of the race. So it's a really small part of the race. You might be talking half a second might be made up, which might actually be quite a big time. But for me, I don't think that's really the most important thing. You might also argue reaction time also is needed maybe in the last 50 meters. If you see somebody coming to overtake you, you've got to react to them. Okay, so relative importance of components of fitness is you ranking or making a judgment about why components of fitness are the most important. Just pause your video and have a little think about that now, please. Okay, so pause your video now. Okay, next relative importance component of fitness. Again, thinking about this question, you need to be writing out at the top BEFS, ABC, PRS, so you can think what are those, just to recap that. And in my head, I'm trying to rank it most important, least important. So again, this particular photograph is a lady called Maggie Alfonsi who plays in a specific position of flanker. The reason I'm talking about that specific position that this England player playing in white plays in is because different rugby positions actually require, I think, different body shapes when you get to an elite standard. So I think personally, for this particular picture, I think body composition is the most important. Okay, if her distribution of muscle and fat is incorrect, for example, if she's got if she's too thin and too slight, she's not going to be strong enough, which you might need for somebody playing in a flanker position. Okay, I might also think that the least important thing for her specific position, all right, in this particular example, I might think it's actually speed. You know, a lot of people would disagree with that and say flankers need to be quick to cover lots of ground. But my justification is that her role on that pitch would actually be important in generating power. All right, or actually be strong, because she would need to make tackles. She'd need to make strong pushes or powerful pushes in scrum, or when she's jumping in a line out. So again, that's my justification, that's my reason for my AO3, my judgment about why I think that. Okay, have a think about what you would put for that, and when you finish, press play. Okay, next one's going to be fitness test protocol. First thing I want you to do if you're on fitness test protocol is pause your video and go and collect this sheet now, please. Excellent. So hopefully you've got this sheet in front of you. So what I'd like you to do in the next few minutes with fitness test protocol, not necessarily for all of them, because some of the protocol you may feel really confident with, but for some of the tests, I would like you to try and put at least 3 points, okay, 3 key points for each protocol, for each test, or for the ones that you might struggle with. So let's say, for example, I struggle with strength. I would want to make sure that I know at least 3 different points on how to conduct the hand grip dynamometer test. Again, check the spelling of dynamometer. Okay, so I might say that the equipment I need is ... I need to conduct this test with my strongest hand so many times. I may also need an assistant to help me record the result, or I might not need to, depending on what that protocol is. And the way you're going to find out this information is, around the room is this sheet. I like to then scan a different QR code, and then if you need to come back to this video, you just scan the QR code again for that particular video. So you go to just the fitness tests that you need. There are 2 different sheets, okay? Fitness test protocol sheet number 1 and fitness test protocol sheet number 2. So pause your video and have a go at doing that now, please. So this is to do with scenarios. Okay, so the first thing I just want to ask you about this particular slide is, sometimes in A-level PE, I know we're doing GCSE PE, I don't know if they're going to be this tough to you, but in A-level PE they put a picture on and they expect you to be able to identify the sport from that picture. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, do you actually know what that sport is called? Okay, just think about that in your head. Do you know what that sport is called that you can see the picture of now? Okay, if you were thinking squash, fantastic, you've got that right. If not, okay, you might want to brush up on your knowledge of different sports. Okay, so on the actual specification, on the topic guidance sheet that the teachers go by, this is given as an example. So you need to be able to identify for different scenarios what fitness test you might actually use on that particular player. Now, one thing that's really obvious if you're just reading that is it says a squash player who experiences fatigue in the final game. And they don't stop there, they carry on to say who needs to test their aerobic endurance, or you could call that cardiovascular fitness. So they actually say the component of fitness. So in order for you to be able to apply your scenarios, you need to know the different fitness tests that relate to different components of fitness. If you don't know the fitness tests related to the components of fitness, you're going to need to learn that. Okay, you're going to need to learn that. So you'll need to go back and look at the fitness test protocol in order to check what test measures what component of fitness. So if you've got a question to do with this particular scenario, all you need to do is you just need to identify what test you would measure. Okay, one really important part of this is that for cardiovascular fitness, all right, or aerobic endurance, there's 2 tests on the specification that you could do. You could do the 12-minute Cooper run. Notice the word I'm going to underline here is run. You might have a scenario with a picture of a swimmer who's struggling. That word run would then need to change to swim. You can do the Cooper test in a swimming pool, swimming as far as you can for 12 minutes. Okay. The other test that you might want to do is the Harvard step test. Easy, hopefully, this bit. Okay. Next scenario, again, do you know the sport? You can see it's an athletics track. You can see that it's to do with in a sandpit, but can you identify what sport that actually is? And this one is, it's a long jumper who needs to test their power because they are not getting required flight from the board for a good jump. Again, you need to know your fitness test for that. I know that that is a vertical jump test. Okay, again, if you don't feel like you understand this and you haven't quite got all the different things, pause it. Have a look at do you know the fitness tests related to the component's fitness? And remember now, on the tests, you will only ever be given a sport from the list of activities that is on the specification. Okay, so they're all the different team and all the different individual activities. So unfortunately, like things like if you were a rounders player, it's no longer on there, so you can't get assessed in it, and there will not be a question on the specification about some sports or any sports that are not on that list. Okay, again, pause your video if you don't feel like you understand this massively. You could go back and listen to it again. You could ask your teacher, or you could then repeat some of the tasks that I've already talked about. Okay, so welcome to the section on normative data. So this information here that I'm just going to draw around here, this information is taken directly from the specification. They want you to analyse and evaluate normative data. So first thing is, you've got to try and make recommendations for area of fitness that need improving for a selected sport. So again, think about when you do your coursework in a little bit. You're going to do a personal exercise program, also known as a PEP. And you will need to identify what sport you're relating your personal exercise program to. Alright, so this section here, you've got one of these. You've been completing them over the last 3 lessons. This one needs a bit more filling out. But hopefully what you would do in this particular box is you will have all your components of fitness listed related to the names of the fitness test. You will then have your different attempts and your best attempts. You must then be able to compare your result to normative data tables in order to do that. And you will then have a list of ratings down here, a complete list of ratings of between excellent and poor. Now let's say, for example, you have got a rating of poor in the 12-minute Cooper test, which tests cardiovascular endurance or cardiovascular fitness, aerobic endurance, okay, and it's excellent. But your sport might be something like weightlifting. Weightlifting does not require any cardiovascular endurance because it's short, sharp, and it's over very quickly. So although the rating is very poor for that, let's say it was very poor, it's not actually important to be any good. Okay, so you need to identify what component of fitness based on the requirements of the sport and the data rating table. So let's say it was a sport like weightlifting and you had a strength test result for the hand grip dynamometer that was poor, then yeah, you'd want to try and improve that. You might even have a rating of very good, but you want it to improve to excellent. It is still, you could still justify the reason for selecting strength because strength is such an important component of fitness, and you could argue power, that you would still try to improve your rating even further because that might help you get selected for a particular competition or to win that competition. Okay, the next thing you might also need to talk about with normative data or fitness tests is the value of fitness testing in improving performance. So you need to think about justifying why do you need these fitness test ratings. So it might be to do with I thought I was one particular fitness rating, but since doing the test it's proved me wrong. Okay, so for example, you might now get hand grip dynamometer test here that you can see on the left hand side. We know it tests strength. We know some of the protocol, and we've got this table here. So at the bottom it says which correct rating for Kathleen given her score of 66 in the grip dynamometer test. You need to be careful that you can identify what rating it falls into because this is quite easy to make a mistake. So really simple. Normative data, we know she'll fall into that category because 66 falls between 64 and 70. So we know that her rating is above average. Really simple, hopefully that should be done. The next one, a 30-meter sprint test. You've got to be really careful with things like measuring speed or time or anything like that because first of all we know that the rating for Himanshu, given his fitness score of 3.9 seconds, okay, in order for the rating to be excellent, above average, or to be as high as you possibly can, we want that score, that time, to be as low as you possibly can. So we've got to identify correctly on there where that rating is, and 3.9 seconds is definitely below 4 seconds. This arrow means less than or below because it's pointing to the left of the score. This arrow that points to the right means more, all right, or greater than. Okay, so let's say Himanshu's score was 4.8 seconds. We know that that is more then 4.6 would be a poor rating. But for this score of 3.9 seconds, his rating would be less than 4 seconds, so his rating is excellent. Okay, if you don't feel like you've mastered everything at the minute, I would like you to make sure you pause your video and go back to it now. Thanks for listening today, guys.